Hey friends, it's Abigail of VC. Welcome back to Judgment Free Zone. We need vulnerability and empathy now more than ever. I hope you are able to find room for more curiosity, self-compassion, and empathy for yourself and others while you're here. I show up so you can too. Hi guys, welcome back. I have a guest, Adam, here, and he's the founder of the family game that inspires what-if questions with your children, kids with their peers. It's really such an amazing thing. I have nothing bad to say about the game. I am literally so honored and thrilled to have you on. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. This is awesome.
How
did you find out about the game, by the way?
Okay, so that's what I was going to bring up next.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
So I don't know you, but you know Aaron Lehman.
Oh, I mean, a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know
he's
how.
He's one of my childhood best friends. We've known each other since third grade. His parents are my parents. We grew up together. His siblings are my siblings. I talked to his sister Angela yesterday. So Aaron he would be my person if we were allowed to choose people.
Oh, that's awesome. See, and I didn't know that. So that's how I found you. Is Aaron was he was my high school communications teacher.
What? You went to Kellis?
Yeah.
Did I come speak in your classroom?
I mean, maybe.
He used to have me come in and speak to his students about some stuff I was doing when I was a motivational speaker. So Bakanzi, I came in and were you that year? Those kids, Bakanzi.
So I graduated in 09.
Emily Joe.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
It really has been.
He used to make me tell this really terrible dating story about this first date I went on, where I puked on my date, and he would make me tell the class. And
I need to hear the story now.
No. This is not. I know we're talking about vulnerability today, but it's
a great way to just go right into it.
The next time you have me on, I'll share.
Okay. All right. You'll ease into the vulnerability.
Yeah, exactly. You got to earn that. You got to earn vulnerability. I think that's what Brené says.
Yeah, she does. She's amazing. And I have quotes for you later on her. I couldn't pick, you know what I mean? It's just, I know. She's just so good.
I didn't know you went to Kellis. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So I would have, did you go to Sun Valley?
I did.
So did I. That's where I knew Aaron from.
Oh,
we went to Sun Valley when it was first built. And then his mom was my school counselor. And then he moved, their whole family moved, and he ended up going to Cactus instead of Peoria. But I would have gone to Kellis if it had been built back.
But you went to Peoria?
Ago. I did. Sun Valley.
My brother went there.
Ooh, but I'm 1,000 years older than your brother.
My brother is, I'm 31. My brother is 7 years older than I am.
Oh, what's his name?
Aaron Wellentukonis.
That's a long last name, and I do not know him.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense name.
No, I did theater. I was kind of a nerd in high school. Gold Key, or what was it? Not Blue Key. Key Club. I did Key Club, and I did theater. It was not.
I don't even know what that is.
No. Theater is where
theater. I know.
You get on stage and I'm just
kidding. Right. That one I know. But so Andy's wife, Andrea, she was my teacher as well.
Yeah. So Andrea, I know we grew up. It's fine. She answers.
She gets it all the time.
Yeah. We grew up in church together. So I've known her since junior high. We went to the same church youth group. So when she had her first date with Andy, she called me and said, "Hey, I met this guy, Andy. I'm going to go to his house and bring him cookies, but I don't know what to talk about. Will you come with as a buffer and hang out?" So I went over to the house and she made these brownies and they were terrible.
Oh my gosh.
We all just sat around the kitchen table catching up because I've known Andrea. We went to NAU together. So her and I have been close for quite a while.
Wow.
So again, it's like a mesh, me and that family. So
yeah, I still I get the names wrong because I still feel like I have this authority figure issue where even though I'm 31 years old, I can't call them by their names.
I get a beer with my 7th grade English teacher and I still call him Mr. Phelan because he's like, "It's Mike, man, we're having a beer." And I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
So was Steve Gross and Rick Penny there when you at Sun Valley when you guys were there?
No, Miss Manzaline was there. She's been there, was there for a long time. Miss Pickrell was there when I was there, but these are all people that have
Yeah.
probably retired a couple of
Yeah.
times.
That's
I'm
so
40. I'm 41, so I'm a little bit older than.
yeah. That's so crazy that you went. I didn't even know that Aaron went to Sun Valley. So
He did. He went to Sun Valley until like fourth or fifth grade, and then he went over to feed into cactus.
well,
So
that's so awesome. Thanks for
yep,
sharing that with me. That's so cool.
the West
So
Valley in Phoenix, man. We're
I
it's a
know
small
it really does. It's just
community.
like, like once if you've lived here your whole life, everybody ends up being like intertwined and connected. So
That's why I moved downtown. I moved all the way downtown to get away from all that.
yeah, I moved west. So I'm out in Surprise. So it's not
Of course
as
you are.
bad. But then I
Right.
started working at Dutch Bros. So I brought it upon myself because now everybody knows me from there. So I
Right.
can't go anywhere. You
No,
just
I
run
get
into
it. I get it.
everybody.
That's
So,
so funny.
but the Drive-A-Logue game, so I bought it for my
Yep.
family and my kids literally like 9 out of 10 when we get in the car. I have 4 kids, all girls,
Yeah.
and they
Wow.
want to play this game.
Well, yeah, that conversation. They like to talk. I love it.
It's amazing. And I want to know all the details. But
Hmm.
before I get all those details for you, I ask the question to all my guests what the gift of them is.
Yep.
So I would love to hear what your gift is.
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, I feel like gifts evolve over time. So what I would have said my gift is a long time ago is probably different than today. My gift is really allowing people to be themselves around me. And that's something I really value. And I've found that I've had other people tell me that, and I didn't think anything about it because I just assume everyone's that way. But really, just letting people be them is my gift.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I had someone tell me that last week. They were like, you let people just you're meet them where they are, and
Yes.
I find that to be what I think is was normal and healthy, but it just seems like there's so many ways we hide ourselves nowadays. So
Yeah, no, that I think that that's awesome. That's a beautiful gift. And I can totally relate to that things changing as we evolve too. And you just
yep,
add to your gifts.
right, right.
Hmm. All right. So tell me all about Drive-A-Log. How did you even get, like, where did this inspiration come from?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So it was originally, so I was a terrible student. I had referrals. I was a discipline problem, but not because I didn't care. It was because I was pretty much an undiagnosed attention deficit kid. I just was active. I was hyperactive. I was hyperverbal. I would interrupt people. I would just, go around and touch all my fellow students whenever I was done. And so I became a teacher when I got older, and it made me a really good teacher. In fact, I was a director of special ed for a number of years for a high school in the Valley. And as I started working with youth and hearing all of these tragic depression, anxiety, stress stories, Arizona became number 2 in the nation for teen suicides for a little bit.
Mm.
And I had left, I had resigned from teaching to start my own educational consulting firm. And I was working with schools and thought, what can I do to get families to talk again? No one's talking. So everyone's on their device, right? They're all just like, and that's it. So how can I really bridge that gap? And to be fair, it wasn't like me and my family talked a ton, but I always valued those communication times with my family. And so I wanted to get new families to do that. So we came up with Drive-A-Logue. Like, how do we ask questions in the car? There's a research article that says kids will talk for longer and stronger if they aren't forced to make direct eye contact. So the car is a perfect time to just sit and listen, and you can look out the window and you can talk about things that you wouldn't normally talk about in depth.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. And then I just started working on questions, and then they actually were good questions, and I was like, this is great. And then I approached a friend who was a designer and said, what do you think? And she goes, let's try it. And so I did the classic entrepreneurial thing where I maxed out all my credit cards and it swung for the fence and printed these up and got all excited about it. And it's still exciting. We won some awards. We been on TV across the country a couple times. So
Oh,
yeah,
you can hear my dogs.
I know. Sounds like the mailman's there.
Must be.
So yeah, so that was kind of the initial launch of Drive-A-Logue. Now we've got an app that we've created this last January that came out for Google and for iPhone, or for Android and iPhone. And so you can
Yes, I
play
have
the
it.
app and swipe the cards, which is cool. And that way I can come out with new cards quicker than I could have printing them and doing all that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Podcast over. We're done. Like,
All right.
it's just so good. I love it. I mean, I really, again, like, I love having conversations and those deep conversations with my kids. And
Yep.
Like, what would you say to parents who, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a lot of parents who don't know what they're supposed to ask, and they don't remember from their childhood what their parents talked to them about, or what they didn't and should have, and all of that. So the second concept of the cards was just to get people to go, oh, I should probably ask, like, if someone comes to the bus stop and says, I'm friends with your mom, don't get in the car.
Yeah.
Because I grew up during stranger danger days of don't get in the van. But
Yeah.
nowadays we call a stranger from our phones to pick us up and take us down the road. So
yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, I actually just had that conversation with my daughter yesterday about, like, hey, I know that we do talk a lot, but I told her, I was like, sometimes it's hard for me to remember I'm an adult now and you're learning everything as you go. So if you come across stuff that you don't know, don't just assume, like, be curious, ask questions, and bring it to me. Because we do, as adults, we forget the things that were taught to us or even not taught to us.
Totally.
But my question was going to be, is like, what would you say to parents who do really want that, like, respect part of, like, looking in your eyes? Like, how would you handle that, or, encourage parents to not feel like it's disrespectful?
So what we've learned is, especially with this generation of kids growing up right now, is they've got really high anxiety and stress levels. And if you look at the world today, of course they do. It makes a lot of sense. They're being exposed to mature adult material online every day with an underdeveloped brain. So they are exposed with a lot and have no way to process it. And we don't know how to process it because we were exposed to a lot less or different things when we were younger. So I have to keep reminding parents that when you force them to make that direct eye contact, you're actually sending up some of that oxytocin, those stress hormone chemicals into their brain, and they're going to shut down. So if you want to talk to them, you can't do both. You can't raise those stress chemicals and then expect to have a good conversation, right? It's like when we get angry and we fight with our spouse or with a friend and we're screaming and yelling, we never use eloquent words.
Right.
We're always using just the base level, screw you, screw you.
Yeah.
No, and it's because our lizard brain is in charge, right?
Right.
And so our long-term memory, our memory of all the good words we know is shut down. And that's what we're doing to our kids when we say, you got to look at me in the eye, or nope, you got to shake their hand, and they're still heightened. The only thing that can bring down that stress chemical is time and water. So if you want to have those hard conversations with your kids, give them time, give them water. And then we say it's about 10 touches. So if you want to talk to your kid about sex, sitting down and taking them to Prescott for the day, and then talking, like, when you get there, you get coffee and everything, and you look them in the eye and you give them the sex talk. That's going to go a lot worse than if you casually bring it up in conversation 10 different times so they get more comfortable talking about it, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes absolute sense to me. I mean, we got books, we got tons of things. So we are very open in our house about all of that. And my oldest is just starting to go through puberty, and we make jokes all the time, like on TV, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's hormones. Like when the guy and girl like each other, like, oh, there it is. So my kids are very open about it. But the whole, stranger danger thing is, I mean, it's intense, like trying to figure out where the boundaries are with phones, and, just the ability that, just like you had previously mentioned about, our generation, like we were scared, our parents were telling us about the vans, But now, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day that they were getting nude pics with their teenage daughter from somebody they didn't even know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and when I was teaching high school, I would have students who rode the city bus, and they would have like people expose themselves to them on the bus, which was obviously horrifying and illegal, all of that. But it's happening online so much more often to kids that if we aren't talking to our kids about it at really young ages, then we're missing out.
Yeah.
I've asked in auditoriums of kids, like, how many of you have been approached by someone online that you didn't know? And every hand goes up. And it's like, so it's not about if, it's about when. And if we aren't talking about it, we're ignoring it. And if we're ignoring it, we're doing our kids a really big disservice.
Yep. Yeah. My daughter, again, my oldest, she got approached. She had a piano game. Have you seen that? There are those games that you just play.
Yep.
And I do love Amazon. The Amazon Fire tablets they're really good. They are like super locked down. And we were, of course, one of them broke. And so we were like, okay, like maybe we'll just like up it. You know what I mean? We'll get and no, they are it. I don't care what anyone says. Like they are not locked down. The Amazon Fire, I will give 5 stars to. But we went up to like the Android one and she had the piano game. And I could not believe that somebody had approached her on a kid piano game asking her like what her hair color was. And I was like, honestly, like what the like what
I know.
And again, having those conversations.
Yeah. If we look at things like grooming and what we're seeing with grooming in kids, it's terrifying. So we really have to know what's going on. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I actually just did on my Instagram, I did like a whole polls on like we're actually talking about grooming, because I think when people, really think of grooming, they think about that sexual act of grooming, like an adult. But to me, it's like even in our movies, like these little nuggets of things that are happening, I mean, even in the movies of like consent, like even Disney movies or the shorts that have been coming out lately, like there was a short that just came out that I don't know if you've seen it or are a Disney fan. I am a Disney fan.
I am, but I don't have Amazon. Like I don't have Disney Plus or anything like that, but I am
But there was a short that came out that it had so much potential, in my opinion. It was talking about how, our inner child can reflect our adult selves if we're not dealing with it. And, it was presented in a club, though, with the way that the people are dressed and, the relationships that are going on in the background of this bar, of this girl turning 21, and how many kids are watching this. And I was like, oh my gosh, it has so much potential. And then it that just killed me that it had all that going on.
Well, it's like when I was a kid and I watched Animal House and I thought that's the way college was going to be. And then I got to college and was like, it's not quite like that. Or I guess it could be if I would have wanted it to be. So, yeah.
Well, and my discussion was around the movie Impossible. Have you seen that movie? Mm-hmm. It's a movie about a tsunami. So that happened I'm pretty sure it was Thailand in 2011. And there's 7 images of nudity throughout the movie. And to me, again, I had a lot of parents reaching out to me saying well, it wasn't the nudity that concerned me. It was more the traumatic events, which is fair. I get that. But also I felt like it's just these breadcrumbs of saying hey, this is what it is. And I was talking to my oldest about it and she's like, it's not, they weren't sexual scenes, but she's like, it's almost like my body should look that way, even though it was traumatic. It's
totally.
So,
I mean, these unsaid things that are just coming into our kids, that's definitely much bigger issue that we aren't really dealing with, unfortunately, as a society.
Right. And that's
to be fair, my background is there was 8 years in my 20s where I worked at Remuda Ranch Eating Disorder Clinic. And so I did a lot of work with body image and that kind of stuff. And so we can talk for 3 days about that.
Oh my gosh. So. Well, we're going to have you back on to talk about that. Seriously, I would love to talk about that stuff with you as well. I mean, it's really important. And then, having 4 daughters.
Right.
It's so.
And how do we find health amongst that, right? How are we having those conversations about what are you reading? But for me, the number one thing is our kids are resilient, and our kids are thinking and saying about a lot. They just need a place to discuss it. And that's what we're not giving them. And so when they're hiding it, when they're burying it, then that suppression of information turns into depression. And depression usually comes out in anger and violence and those tragedies that we see.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time, even for myself, and only speaking for myself, but when something's going on with me, I'm not really looking for anyone's opinion. I'm just looking to be heard. And that's what our kids want
your
too.
Kids to go to you before they go to the guy asking them what their hair color is on the piano app, right? But if you don't give them a voice in your home, they will find a voice somewhere else.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to really be just upfront and honest about. Where's their voice? Well, my voice is on Instagram. My voice is on TikTok. My voice is on Snapchat. Well, I'd much rather your voice be here with us. That's one thing about the Lehman family. If you don't know about the Lehmans, is I went to their house for dinner one time in high school, and their mom and dad put a timer on the table, and we each went around and talked for 3 minutes about the highs and the lows of our week. And I've never had an adult listen to me like that as a kid. It was fascinating. My parents listened to me, but we also ate dinner in front of the TV and did what I thought was normal. And so having someone 5 people in a family look at me and intensely listen to me for 3 minutes was, I thought, crazy, but it's amazing how that can help.
Yeah, we do something similar in our house. We do our favorite part of the day. We do something we're thankful for. We do one thing that we love about our bodies, one thing that we love about ourselves, and then something we look forward to the future. And we all listen to each other, because when we're over talking each other, we're not really listening. Or, you get the kids that raise their hand, and I'm like, if you're looking for something to say, you're not listening.
Right. Well, and what's funny is, like I said, things develop, right? I have family lunch every Sunday now, and we do as a family sit around and talk that we're all adults and we're all just hanging out. And so we have more conversations now, but when I was a kid growing up, that wasn't necessarily the same. So it's amazing how you can develop. What I want is people to have those conversations earlier and younger, and capture that when we have those pivotal time frames. Because we are seeing puberty hit at about 8-9 years old, and we aren't seeing full brain maturation happening until they're 26, 27, and that's terrifying. So
no, I felt like for myself, I felt a huge shift at 27, which was really weird. I felt it. I watched it happen, and I was like, this is crazy. I feel like I feel like I'm adulting now.
Totally. I mean, I lived on my own until I was 27. I had lived on my own since I was 19, but I still didn't necessarily. I kind of still felt like I was playing house. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Yes. Well, I feel like we've been really vulnerable already with all of this, which is awesome.
I agree.
But vulnerability, Brene Brown, the best. I had to pick 2. She says vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of the meaningful human experience, which I love. And then she also said vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage are not always comfortable, but they are never weakness.
Wow.
I know.
One of my favorite things that she says, I read in one of her book, Dare to Lead, was unclear is unkind and clear is kind. And I've taken that with me forever. And when I'm confusing people in my life, that's unkind. And so I just find that I love it.
Yeah. I even, I started re-listening to her book, Vulnerability. I can't remember the end of it. I just started listening to it again. It wasn't really a book. It was more like her series. Did you watch that? Yeah. And she has it on Audible now. And this is totally kind of getting on a tangent too, but she was talking about how have you listened to it?
Not the whole thing, no.
So she kind of started talking about how this family was going through something, and one of her kids passed away. There was four of them. One of her kids passed, the family passed away. Two of them went to war, and one of them didn't come back, and then they lost their house. And she asked like what the family must have been going through, and had everybody say like sadness, like anger, and then somebody said opportunity for connection, and they kept going on. And she was saying like that did happen over 9/11, and this scarcity that America was going through, and like still was going through 11 years later. And I just found that listening to that yesterday, that part so interesting, because I feel like we're in a sense back to that spot again.
Yep. We can let crises bring us together or pull us apart. And that's really our decision, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why at the beginning of the pandemic, you saw families actually talking again. The sales in Drive-A-Logue went down during the beginning of the pandemic because they were spending time together. They were hanging out. They didn't need my cards to help. But then whenever we prolonged it, and it was like, oh, now we've been here for 6 months. Now I don't want to be around my family. Now I'm tired of the everyday. And that's where I started seeing sales go up. So it's just been really interesting to watch that wavelength.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And with that, so my kids are all younger, and I was gonna kind of go into some vulnerability for myself, creating that space. So I have twins, and we've had them tested for different things. And one of my twins, she has ADHD and dyslexia, and I really am convinced that there's some kind of like autism or Asperger's to that. Her twin as well has ADHD and defiance disorder.
Oh, wow. ODD. Yeah.
And so, it can be a little wild in my house.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're a saint.
Yeah, with 4 kids. And I have a bonus daughter as well, and she's also 8. So we have 3 8-year-olds running around and an 11-year-old. And like, to be very honest, it's just a shit show, but it's fine. It's a good time. It's crazy.
Listen, sometimes you have to just keep your head down and just keep shoveling it, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, you're grown up now. It's so weird. That's amazing.
I know. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're 8, so that means that I have 10. I take my parenting so seriously. I'm like, I only have 10 years left. You know what I mean? Like, they could leave and I only have 10 years to go. But one of my girls has she's struggled recently with some like getting picked on and bullying at school. She had a friend who was close, and there's a group of girls who have been, picking on her, really. Like, I that's just what it is. And saying like, they went up to this girl that was her friend and told her that she couldn't be friends with my daughter. And that the friend said to my daughter that like, oh, well, I'll just pretend like I'm not your friend around this girl. And it's been, escalating. And we've had multiple conversations with, the principal and the teachers. And, it's devastating, like, as a parent, and to not know what to do. And then also, even my oldest, she went up to this girl, and I found out that day, like, when she got home, she's like, I went up. Right. She's like, I went up to her, and well, she actually handled it really well. She was like, hey, like, it's not okay to like treat somebody like this. And she like asked her, like, are you okay? Like, is something going on with you at home? Because
I like it. I like this kid.
She's great. She's awesome. But with that, the other girl went and told on my oldest and got her in trouble. And I don't think my daughter did anything wrong. I'm like,
no.
I'm like, it's good.
So there's a couple things that are going on. Do you want my input? Is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah, I just want, again, to open the conversation. Yeah. What do we do as parents? How do we help the kids, in this situation where we know that hurt people, right?
Totally. And there's a couple dynamics at play. So number one, you use the word bully, and that's an overused term that we've thrown around in education. Okay. We have a 0 tolerance bullying policy, but no one can tell you what that means. Because it's confusing. And so I use the definition that bullying is, there's drama, there's bullying, and there's harassment. And they're all three different things, and they aren't the same. And so drama is where you've got, like, what your daughter is experiencing is unfortunate, but it sounds like it's just girl drama, right? Like, there's no power differential. It's not like there's a kid who's homeless at school and they're all picking on that homeless kid. That's bullying, right? Because there's an obvious power shift. There's some just kid with a disability. I mean, we're encroaching that because of your daughter's challenges, but definitely there's that, right? And then harassment is where we add this idea of danger. So it's this idea of getting beat up. It's the idea of getting, go kill yourself. You don't deserve to live. That's harassment. That's like, and you can have where it starts one and it builds up, but we need to be clear about where we are. And for kids who are in that drama cycle, I tell parents all the time, the worst thing that we can do as parents is, or one of the worst things we've done is we've taken the locus of control away from kids. So we've said, tell an adult, tell an adult, tell an adult, tell an adult, because you can't handle it. You can't handle it. And that takes that power away from our kids. And we should be empowering them, right?
Right.
Go talk to them. Ask them what's going on. Ask them what, like your older daughter. Perfect. I would say, if the school wants to get her in trouble, that sucks. But you know what?
Yeah.
You did a great strategy. You used your voice. And that's what I want kids to do more, is use your voice. Say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't want to be friends with you, and I'm going to sit somewhere else because I know my worth and I deserve better. So I'm going to do that. Like, that's what we want kids to be able to do. And we have to role play. We have to teach them the words. We have to practice with them. And then we have to send them out, and we have to watch them fail. And that is super hard as a parent. And yet, the number one thing is we remove every obstacle from our kids' paths. And the number one thing our kids need is more obstacles in their path.
Yeah.
You wonder why you are resilient and why you are the way you are. It's because you had to face crappy things in your life. But if we remove all those crappy things from our kids, they're never going to grow up to be empowered like we are. Absolutely. So we have to walk alongside them and cheer them on. And we can say, how did it go? Did you use your words? How did it go? Let's talk about it. We practiced it last night. Did you do it? Okay, maybe we could try this. All right, let's try this. And we become their coach. We don't become their star player.
Yes. No.
They should be their own star player.
I absolutely love that. And I think for, what would you say? Because I do feel like I feel like I represent that for my kids. I tell Zyla that, we talk about boundaries and what, again, Brene Brown talks about marble jar friends, right? Like that's how we use our term in our house of creating marble jar friends. And when you have somebody who continues to choose, even she said yesterday that she took accountability. She said like, oh yeah, they're still picking on me. She's like, but I also like bug them too. Like, cause I want them to play with me. So I keep going back. So it's like, of course I encourage. Go ahead.
And then we're setting up for codependent behavior, right? Like, oh, it's okay. They're making fun of you. Just keep going back. And it's like, no, it's not okay. Yeah. And you can stand up for yourself, but also if you still want to go, you can, but just know that you have that ability, because we don't want to create a system where our kids seek out that type of friendship. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's how we have bad adult relationships.
Yeah. And I like, again, I keep saying like, to me, it's like, where is the line now? And again, first time parent to a bunch of them. It's like, where
you've got a plethora.
I know. So I really have my hands full, and
I'm going to have to come over for dinner sometime and just like hang out. I love going to family dinners with families because I get to watch the kids' interactions. And I taught high school for so long and I love kids. So it's always funny to kind of see and be like, oh, all right, there you go. And then I get my fix because I actually don't have any kids of my own. So.
Oh man, you would come in to my house and probably be like, okay, so like dinner's now, we're going, like it can get, but yeah. So where is that line, where I feel like right now I'm at the point where it's like, hey, I've, explained to you like how to, talk about not continuing to go into that kind of relationship. You keep choosing to do it. So, you know what I mean? Where is the line of being like, oh,
For me, the line is when we start seeing a very drastic change in behavior. When my kid stops coming out of their room, when my kid stops talking, when my kid is crying, looking at their phone, when my kid, you know what I mean? Like when I start seeing those behavior shifts, that tells me it's gone from a problem or a struggle to a really big problem. And for me, that's when mental health is a concern. That's when, physical harming, cutting, that kind of stuff, purging, all of that starts to kind of show up because then they're trying to fit that mold. So for me, those big giant shifts are really where I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So what can,
but as long as she's still talking to you about it, as long as she's still talking about it, as long as she's like, well, I'll try again tomorrow or whatever, and she's her same self, we're good. It's when all of a sudden another person shows up in that kid's body, and you'll recognize that as a parent. That's when you go, we need to actually like now something else is going on.
Yeah. No. Is there anything, not in my situation that you would just want to add to any of that for other parents or encourage them or resources?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of finding another trusted adult in a kid's life. So like you heard me mention growing up in youth group with Andrea, I had adults in my life that weren't my parents that I felt safe to talk to about things. And that's really important. So an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a grandparent, someone else in that kid's life who loves and cares about them, who is a trusted adult. Because to be honest, there are things they're not going to want to talk to you about because you're the mom. And so having that like support somewhere else is crucial in my opinion. So getting them involved in hobbies, getting them involved in different things where they can find that is great.
Yes.
And also a distraction. If we get them off their device, we can't just take their phone away. We've got to replace it with something else. So replacing it with pottery, replacing it with painting class, or my niece right now is in a sewing club. Every Saturday she goes and like learns how to sew. And like, that's great for her because if you're not on your phone and you're just sitting by yourself in your room, that doesn't go well for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't go well for me. And I'm a grown up.
Yep. I know. I've been trying to be very like particular about my time now, especially because my work is so much centered around social media now. I'm like, totally. I have to have some like really strict work boundaries.
Tell me about it. I'm a motivational speaker by trade. I've given a TED talk. I teach people how to give TED talks. Like I'm a public speaking professor at Phoenix College and Rio Salado. And so I have to do a lot of social media work and it's the worst.
It is the comparison game.
Yep. That's why I stopped following all my CrossFit athlete friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really into fitness, but I'm really into fitness pizza and a fitness body. So
that's great. No, I tell people all the time, if people aren't serving you even on Instagram, get rid of them.
Yep.
So definitely. So what are you doing right now? Where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me a couple places. Drive-A-Logue.com, obviously, is my game. You could also go to adamleebrooks.com. That's where you'll find a lot of my speaking stuff, consulting. I'm doing some work right now where I'm building an accreditation program for the Arizona Child After School Excellence Program. So any before and after school programs, helping them get accredited so that they work on character, they work on the social emotional goals. So I'm helping them build that right now, which is exciting. So yeah.
That's awesome. Great.
And I actually was a writing coach. So I helped Aaron Lehman, Andrea Lehman, Andy Lehman, Angie Lehman. I hope their parents, John and Deborah, come out with a parenting book that launches in May.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. I'll have to link all of those things.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's called Embracing Amazing.
Wow.
And, how they raised 3 kids who are amazing.
Yeah.
And if you know their family, you want to know their recipe for success. And that's what this book is. So
they are they're contagious for sure.
Yep, they are.
Yeah.
So that's a little plug, but yeah, besides that, I'm just hanging out.
Awesome. Well,
thank you for having me on.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk again. I appreciate you so much coming on. Not even knowing who I am or my podcast and just
now we're best friends. So you can reach out anything you want. You have my number.
Thank you so much. Everybody go get his app, Drive-A-Logue. I cannot speak highly enough. Thank you so much, Adam, again. And
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. Keep showing up, my friends, and I will too. See you next time. Thanks, friends, for listening in. If you found this helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. If you'd like to be more involved in our community, hop over to Instagram and find me at Abigail Levisi. Keep showing up. I will too. See you next time.